I don't think anyone has better graphics than this, what you see right here. So you're going to be excited when you come to this town.
I already am.
All right, joining us live on the podcast broadcast, very special guest who is performing this Sunday at the Linda Ronstat Music Hall on the 21st, and we're going to get her on the air here in a little bit. You may recognize her as a television personality. She's on Fox News, Fox Nation. She's a stand-up comedian. She's an author of a best-selling book as well, who talks about the power of comedy. Where the book is called "You Can't Joke About That: Why Everything Is Funny, Nothing is Sacred, and We're All in This Together." We got Timpf. Good morning, Kat.
Good morning.
Yeah, and I'm excited to have you on and reach out to your publicist here. When I saw that you were announced on here, it's a very weird weekend too that we're celebrating here in Tucson, because it's almost like it's like a comedy weekend. We have all these like high profile comedy shows, big comedy shows that are happening. You're kind of like capping it out, rounding it off, if you will, on Sunday at the Linda Ronstat Music Hall, literally following up 2 other comedy shows. So you're the 3rd comedy show in a row. And you got the Bad Friends comedy tour with Andrew Santino and Bobby Lee on Friday, Steve Trevino on Saturday, and then you like basically headlining and closing it down on Sunday. And that's a pretty impressive comedy lineup that you decided to join.
I'm very, you know what? I'm very, very excited. I've had so much fun doing the show, and getting to meet people and be in front of people rather than just the audience of the internet. Because if you just only see that, I mean, it gets me sometimes a little bit where I'm like, we're done. We're done for, pack it up. We're done. But then you go out and perform in front of these live audiences and they laugh and everyone has a great time. And I do meet and greets and I meet people who are sane. And it really does. It's very exciting and helpful for me. Oh, my dog's going to jump up here.
That's fine. Yeah, bring the dog in on the conversation. Yeah, I mean, it has to be like even healthy for you too, to be like reminded that people aren't these vicious monsters when they're not anonymous and they're in front of you, and because when you are doing and interacting and doing so much social media and video content, and in dealing with the comment section,
it's rough. It's rough.
Yeah,
I mean, for me personally, it's I'm independent politically, so I'm not a Republican. I'm also not a Democrat, but I work at Fox. So it's like one day, or sometimes in the same day, I'll be getting crap from one side, and the next day I'll be getting crap from the other side. Because if you say one, let's say, positive thing about Trump, then all of a sudden you're MAGA. Or if you make even a joke about Trump or say something negative about Trump, all of a sudden you're for Biden, and it's just neither of those things are true. And I think what I love about the show that I do on the road is it's about the stuff we have in common. It's about human stuff. And I think the way that we framed the debate about speech is kind of wrong, where it's like comedy and free speech on one side and then sensitivity on the other side. And we all get along. I think that's not true. I think the more we can be open, along as it's with good intentions. I mean, making a joke is a lot different than being a jerk because you're a jerk.
Yeah, and then punching down and everything else, right?
And any of that stuff. But humor can be super healing within yourself. And I talk a lot about the traumatic stuff in my life and the way that joking about it helped me get through it, but also in your relationships with other people.
Right. Yeah. And that's exactly why I wanted to have you on, right? Because, on the surface, when you look at your resume, there's a lot of people will probably be quick to be like, if they were like leaning hard on the left, like, nope, she's on Fox News, then, it's extreme, and I knew that wasn't the case with you, but, you're obviously under that umbrella. Do you feel like you have like basically coworkers that are constantly trying to like recruit you and be like, hey, this is a good guy right here?
My coworkers honestly don't. I'm grateful that the show that I'm on, I'm very much always encouraged to be myself. I've never been told, no, you shouldn't say that or don't say that. No,
yeah.
It's more like the people, like we said earlier in the comment section, bullying me to kind of fall in line. And something that really frustrates me is there'll be an ad, and I shouldn't read it at all, but like I do, and it's hard not to, but I'm getting better. But anyway, I did a podcast with Michael Costa of The Daily Show, and we had this great conversation. It was an hour-long conversation co-posted like a clip from it where I speak for like 30 seconds on Instagram yesterday. And I can't go on Instagram anymore because it's so insane from both sides. Like it's to me, it was a very tepid clip. I don't think it was a controversial clip, but basically he was like, Trump, I think is a troll. And I'm like, well, of course he's a troll, but people think he's funny. That's one of the things people like about him. For me, the things I don't like aren't really about that. And in any case, I'm just the most bummed that those are the two choices we have again this time.
Yeah. And I think it represents a lot of people in this country for sure.
It does, but it doesn't represent the voices that you actually hear from.
Right.
On the internet. So I've been flooded with like, you're a traitor and I'm like, to what? To who? And it's, again, this is something that I've said. This is not a secret, right? I mean, this is, I've never said otherwise throughout my career. But it's also like because of the platform that I have, obviously most of the audience of that channel is conservative. I know for a fact that I could have more popularity, which translates into more money if I just decided like I was going to go full MAGA. So it's not
all in. Yeah.
Right. It's not. And I've had people straight up ask me who are like friends, like, why don't you do that? And it's because I'm not. And I wouldn't be able to handle the hate if it was me saying something I didn't believe. And there's nothing wrong with being a Trump person. And I say every single day, whoever you vote for, whoever you support, that doesn't tell me everything I need to know about you. And I think it's so wrong when anyone on any side treats it that way.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And then, and being in media as well, you saw the change of people's attitudes when it comes to, joking about the president when Donald Trump started becoming a candidate. Like, I was doing radio for a good 7 years before that. And, I grew up thinking every comedian makes fun of the president. I think that's the ultimate punch up, right? Then as soon as you started making anything to kind of point out anything that may be humorous, I started getting like immediate like blowback. And, it's a difficult time to talk about political current events and still be a comedian. And I feel like we're finally kind of getting through that to a certain extent where you're finally like you could cater to a crowd that's in the middle and not worry about the extremes that are on the left and the right.
Yeah, and I really just don't. I mean, honestly, we have, and my show is about this, and the things I joke about, and we really do have so much more in common than we do different. I mean, I have so many different kinds of friends in my life because of the jobs I've worked and the places I've lived. I've had a very full life already, where I have friends that are super MAGA. I have friends who are Republicans who don't like Trump. I have friends who are Democratic socialists, and they're all really valuable relationships to me in some way. And I think that to me, what's become more and more clear is that it's the people in power who really gain more when we're divided, because then it's like a vote for me isn't just a vote for me, it's a vote against the evil other side. And so that is a really great tactic for them. But for the rest of us, it really hurts what could be really meaningful relationships that we could be having with each other.
You're absolutely right about that. We're going to get on about 2 minutes, and we'll talk more about that on the air as well. And how long have you been doing stand-up comedy? Did you start in college?
I've been doing it on and off since after I graduated college. And the show that I do now is like, it's a one-woman show, but it's stand-up-ish too. It's a really, really cool concept, and I'm really excited about it. I'm excited to bring it to you guys.
I love it. Yeah. I want to dive deeper into that as well. So are you just a mixture of like storytelling and then some maybe one-liners thrown in the mix? Kind of.
Yeah, a lot of one-liners. It's storytelling. So, but there's also a message. The book it's a slideshow where I kind of provide the receipts for the things I talk about in the book, but every slide has a punchline. And it's really fun. It's really fun because 14 years ago, I was a cashier at Boston Market, and that was my first job out of college. And I had a lot of horrific things happen to me between then and now. And then I found that the pressure to speak about those things correctly, or what society considers to be correctly, it really made things harder for me. And it made the devastating isolating for me, but joking about it really helped me. So that's kind of the message of the show as well. So it's funny. You'll be people laugh at things that you never think that you'd find yourself laughing at. But people, I feel a greater sense of connection with people whenever I do one of these shows. I know the people who come feel the same way.
Yeah, that's awesome. How long did it take you to kind of work on this show before taking it on the road?
Well, it was crazy because I didn't even know what the show was going to be at first. So it's changed as it's gone on. So I'd say like a month for the first iteration, but then I did a round of dates in the fall. And after the first couple of months, it really kind of got honed down to something that I feel just really awesome about. And then afterwards, I have a Q&A kind of about my book and other things. But it's also, there's bits worked into the Q&A too. So
good. Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, about 18 seconds, going to get on the air. I'm going to recap a couple things and remind people to go check out the book and, of course, the show, which like I'm excited about. So let's get right into it. Let's see. There's some music. Rock 1 2.1. Song's not over yet. KFMA, welcome back. Beefvegan Presents. That was Shine Down. On the podcast broadcast, we got a very special guest. She is performing at the Linda Ronstat Music Hall this Sunday. Tickets available, tcc.com. She is also the author of a book. You can't joke about that. Why Everything is Funny, Nothing is Sacred, and We're All in This Together. And in the background is her dog making sounds. That's not weird.
I know. I'm so sorry. That's Carl. I mean, my husband's in the shower, so this is Carl right here. And
he got him. Is joining us.
Yes, we got him in March of the pandemic, so he doesn't know how to not be touching someone. So
really?
As long as my husband's in the shower, there's no choice but to have him on my lap right now. So that's the snoring of a French bulldog for anybody.
So you got the dog during pandemic, so then you had to constantly coddle him. It was almost like your therapy animal, getting you through the pandemic as well. And now you spoiled him to the point where you 100% have to focus on Carl.
Exactly. He's just when he was a puppy, people were home. I mean, I was working we was only on a weekly show at that point. So we were home like all the time. So he got used to someone being with him all the time. And now he flips out if he's alone, which I've been through some of that in my life, so I kind of get it.
It's just like his mom.
Yeah.
Now, Kat's a very busy woman, and why I'm excited to have her on the podcast broadcast because I recognize the grind. The resume is stacked. She later on she'll be filling in on Gutfeld. I'm sure you recognize her on Fox News if you check that out. Of course, she also does a podcast with Tyrus, who's a former heavyweight champion professional wrestling. And
I'm not doing the podcast right now.
Oh, you're on a sabbatical with Tyrus? Are you on good terms or not good terms with Tyrus?
We're totally on good terms. We're both on tour.
Oh, yeah.
So
okay.
we're both so busy.
What an odd couple, but also, what an odd couple, but also like a great morning radio kind of tandem you guys had as well. I mean, it's kind of reminiscent. If I gained 100 pounds and 8 inches, I could potentially be Tyrus-like, but it's very similar to like Weirdo and Mine's dynamic in a way.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you also worked at Barstool Sports. So you were. So what was the Barstool culture like when you were a part of it before you went on and continued in other endeavors?
So I worked at Barstool and Fox at the same time, and I was also working as a columnist at National Review at the same time. And I worked at Barstool when they first moved to New York. So it was a very different operation at the time. I have nothing but positive things to say about my time at Barstool. When my book came out, I did several shows over there. I did a lot of man on the street videos that were insane experiences. And I did one that goes viral, for example, every few years that I did at a Juggalo gathering.
So you went to the gathering of the Juggalos?
I did go. And at the time, like I said, Barstool's a way smaller operation. So Gaz, who's Portnoy's right-hand man, was my camera guy. So it was really just me and Gaz at the gathering, and he was wearing salmon colored shorts, and we definitely stood out. But I went to spring break with him, and there's a lot of really fun things that I got to do at Barstool, and I still have great relationships over there with all those people.
Now, when you were doing the gathering of the Juggalos, were you terrified, or did you I feel like you ended up fitting in, and did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I think there's something wrong with me because the whole time I was just like, this content is fire. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wasn't, even when a guy threatened to hit my camera and all this other stuff, I was kind of like, keep rolling. This is great. I hate doing man on the street stuff until I start doing it. It's like going to the gym. When you go there, you're like, oh, I don't want to do this. And then you start and it's fun. And I've always been good at it. So that's a goal of mine to start doing some of that stuff again. But with all my spare time.
I think it's a different experience because, Kat's also being a television personality or an attractive person. So, I think your experience doing man on the streets are different from like when somebody like myself attempts to do the man on the street stuff too, right? Which I have done. So, I like how many no's would you average get before you get a yes? Because when I approach people, I have to disarm them in a way where it's like, no, trust me, I'm not as creepy as I look. Will you please talk to me on camera? And I get so many no's before I get a yes.
It depends where I am. It really does. The juggalos,
Mhm.
they were all pretty much down to talk to me, except towards the end.
Yeah.
Spring break, the drunk kids were very down to talk to me. But it really just kind of depends. I think the way that I've always approached it too, and it's not really a tactic so much as it is actually genuine, is when I'm doing them, I'm honestly curious.
Yeah.
I'm honestly, like, what are you doing here? You
Yeah.
know?
Right.
It
And I
seems
think that
awesome.
that
You
makes
guys
it
are
more
having
fun.
a good time. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I truly, I mean, I remember one of the guys, I mean, there's so many things that happen in this video. There's this guy in this tent, he's smoking a bowl, whatever, talking to the guy about how long he drove, some insane amount of time he drove to be there. And I was like, is there anything you care about more in the world than ICP? And he was like, honestly, no. It's just stuff like that to me. And I refuse to be in a bubble of any kind. And
Right.
so that's what I like about that. That's what I like about the tour. That's what I like about maintaining relationships with so many different kinds of people is I refuse
Yeah.
to be in a bubble of any kind.
Right. Yeah. And constantly staying active. And I'm sure, you going to Gathering of the Juggalos on your resume definitely helped you land a job at Fox News somehow, And
I was working there at the same time. That's the crazy thing. But
they allowed you. Did they drug test you immediately when you returned?
no. But yeah, they allowed me, they allowed me to do that. They allowed me to do things with Barstool. Ultimately, it was just kind of, I mean, I got busier at Fox, and then I couldn't put the work in that I needed to do at Barstool. Like I said, I still have great relationships with those people, and I've definitely been on shows since. When I've hosted things, I've had Portnoy on mine. So, yeah.
You've been seeing how much money he's been winning gambling, and at what point do you get concerned about this habit turning into a problem?
He'll always figure it out. That's the thing. He always figures it out. So I wouldn't bet against him.
Well, I mean, obviously, this, especially this year, I think he's racked up like $5.6 million just in bets. That's how lucky he's been getting. How long did it take you to write your book? And, because I imagine with everything else, you must have like 18-hour days. It seems like you have like 10 jobs all at once consistently.
Yeah. It took me, the first draft of it took me about 4 months, honestly.
Yeah.
Which I love to write. And I basically just was writing in all my spare time. And that's how I got it done. I mean, this is something I've been passionate about for a while. And I found that, writing a chapter, I'd get an idea for another one. And I wrote the book to try to make it the best book I could make it. And then after it was done, I flipped out about the fact that people are going to read the stuff that's in there. I'm very open about a lot of things that are personal.
Very open.
Things that are gross. And I kind of just decided to freak out about that later. But I think that the vulnerability is also a huge thing. I think that it's another thing that's missing with people trying to present themselves as being super perfect on social media and all that kind of stuff. I think that it can be really I think that two things that can disarm a conversation are humor and also just being a human, showing people you're a human by admitting to weaknesses or something hard you've been through or something that you got wrong or something you messed up or something gross. That can really kind of disarm it.
Right. Yeah. And we'll talk about some of the gross things that are featured in the book on the podcast broadcast. We'll have more with a comedian, Kat Timpf, who is performing this Sunday at the Linda Ronstat Music Hall. Tickets available at tcc.com. You can join the conversation, youtube.com/beefvegan, or we'll have more with Kat after music from Green Day and Rock 102.1 KFMA. Clear.
And I mean, that's 100% true because like my family's on social media because we're in a unique situation. But the more honest I am of like, no, this is just our life, or like even like you said, the humorous things, the gross things, the I effed up things, like people would be like, I don't agree with how your family lives, but like you guys are awesome and we could have a conversation. Like again, honesty, vulnerability, transparency, like is a lot. I mean, that's how I landed this gig. honestly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I post all kinds of different things on social media. I posted a picture where I was like in the lobby of a Hyatt and like my room wasn't ready yet. And I've been traveling all day and like I look really ugly, like and it's like funny, you know what I mean? I don't look just like medium. I look like absolutely hideous because I thought it was funny, and I also like I don't care. Like sometimes insults get to me. I'm not gonna pretend they don't, but about my appearance, they really don't. They just don't.
Did you
So
read
it's
the
like,
comments after you posted that and have a chuckle, or did people like
well,
go
I
after
did
you?
laugh because some people were earnestly like, I think I like you better when XYZ, how you look. I'm like, yeah, no
You're more
kidding, dude.
obtainable.
Like,
Yeah.
I do look way better after an hour and a half in hair and makeup. Like, this isn't my new headshot I'm showing you.
right. Everybody looks better after an hour and a half of hair and makeup. Like, come on.
Yeah. Weirdo's unique for the experience that she's referring to is she's in a polycube relationship. Meaning that she has 3 partners that she sleeps in a bed with, like Willy Wonka's grandparents style.
I was just gonna say, the only concern I have with that is how big does the bed have to be?
We have a Texas King, so it's 120 inches across and 80 inches long. Yeah, which is just basically a family bed. Which actually, that was a lot of people being like, "What size is your bed?" It's just me, my husband, and our dog. But that would be amazing. So I've explained our bed so many times to people who weren't even interested in poly. They're like, "I just want a huge comfy bed because that means I've made it." And I was like, "Yeah, I guess."
Yeah, curiosity for sure.
But yeah, but like, I mean, we've had our looks insulted a lot too. And in fact, there was one day that like Beef was like coaching me through it because like some of them I was like laughing as whatever, and it was starting to bother me. And the comment that bothered me the most now makes me laugh the most because I was like, I got to give the guy credit on creativity for insulting my looks.
Well, he was pretty spot on with your partners and stuff. Where I was just like, oh, it's like vicious, but also like nailed it.
Yeah,
and you're like, ooh.
But again, at the end of the day, like you said, you just have to laugh at it, and especially with like trauma and everything. Like you have to laugh and you have to have the humor because you can only cry so much.
Yeah, and then also I feel like saying you can't joke about a subject gives the subject that's scary or traumatic even more power because now you've made it untouchable, right?
Exactly.
And when you laugh in the face of it, whenever I've made jokes about stuff, even it's like my own mom's like untimely death, people are like, that's not funny. I'm like, do you think that I think it is? Like, do you think I think it is funny that happened? It's like, no, that's how I'm getting through this. And these people kind of, they see themselves as being compassionate, but they're not. It's actually so clearly rooted in self-interest. They're upset they had to think about dead moms for a second, for example. So and for me, what they're really doing is they're saying, you can't have this healing mechanism that's working for you. And that's being selfish.
Yeah. And such a weird experience to go through. Sorry about your loss, by the way, but her mom was diagnosed with a rare disease and then like 3 weeks later passed away. So during that time, I mean, did you even in real time when it was happening, did you know that it was going to end so quickly, or was there still some optimism?
I didn't think it was going to happen that quickly. I thought maybe I'd have like a year or so. As things went on, it became clear to me as she was in the ICU and stuff like that. I was like, oh, she's gonna die soon. And everyone kind of around me, kind of like my dad, people did have optimism, and that was actually frustrating for me. She had a sense of humor about it, but it was really because it happened so suddenly. People didn't expect it to happen. I got hired at Fox like 6 months after. I had just moved to New York. I had all these new people in my life, new things in my life. I didn't want to like weird anybody out by like telling people what was going on because people would get weirded out and I would feel bad. And when I made people feel uncomfortable just by telling them how my life was going, I would feel bad. And then eventually what I learned and what I always do now, if it ever comes up, is if I'm like, oh, she's dead or she died or what, and someone says, oh, man, I'm so sorry. I just say, it's okay. You didn't kill her. And then the vibe of the conversation changes and then we can have like a normal conversation where I don't feel bad anymore about like the sad thing that happened to me.
That's a great response. I might have to take that because my brother passed away 15 years ago and people will still be like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm like, it was a long time ago. Like I've moved on, you know what I mean? But I'm going to take that one. That's good.
Until the day the person's like, wait, well, what was your brother's name again? Just double checking, making sure it wasn't me.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you can't tell that joke to OJ. Well, you can't tell that joke anymore anyway.
Well, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it sucks. And but I've been going through it and you're actually not helping me right now by like making me feel bad that I like brought the vibe in the room down just because my life is what it is.
No, you do.
Right.
Well, look, and it's such a life is weird, right? And you got all these opportunities while you're still processing, and you have to be strong. So that's another sign and of like an example of your strength as you continue to be ambitious and move forward in your career. And it's another one of those traits that I highly respect about it, because I know how difficult it could be. I know how easy it is to shut down when you're dealing with that, as opposed to saying, oh, wait, it's go time. Here's the opportunity that I'm working for, that I still have to put my game face on and power through it. And then through that, you're able to process that by writing a book and continue to work on your craft through your stand-up comedy and everything else. So all this stuff is very admirable traits. And, that's why I'm so excited to have you on, Kat. I can't say that enough, but the story is impressive. And the resume continues to impress and grow. And so I'm very happy for you able to do that. Now, I know that you're so busy too, and you're young, and you just got married a couple years ago. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
But obviously it's difficult to have a family and during this time when you're still getting everything going. So you have you're actually embryos frozen. You have about 9 of them frozen, right?
9. Yeah, I have 9 of them frozen. Yes.
Did you name them just in case? You ever go through and like with your husband and just come up with what is it, like six boys, 3 girls, something like that?
Yeah, 6 boys, 3 girls. No, I haven't named them. I think that it's something that I never thought I wanted kids. I never even like wanted a boyfriend. And then it's like so cringe, but like I did fall in love, and I got married, and I was like, you know what? I want to have his kids.
Yeah, yeah. So you knew that was that's the one. So yeah, you didn't think before that. It was no kids before that till you met this dude, and you're like, I got to make more of these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's just like, I dated always like comedians and artists, musicians. There was a rapper, etc. He's like a finance guy who like went to West Point, and he's from Westchester, and it's a complete opposite of anyone I've ever dated. But I thought I thought all of it would be boring, but it's actually not boring. It's actually very fun. He's actually very accepting and awesome, and like lets me be me, which it's not always easy because I'm pretty out there, and the way he puts it, he's like, you take market risk every time you open your mouth, which is true. And he's just down to take that ride and never telling me, oh, I don't know. I mean, some of the stuff that I talk about on stage that it does involve him, you might not, or the book that, my mother-in-law read that where I talk about our sex life when I had an ostomy briefly in 2020. Most people might be like, I don't know that I want the world to know that, but he's like, okay, well, let's do that. They do.
You made it happen, which is good. I mean, you were still young in your marriage as well, or relationship.
Yeah, well, we had just gotten we were engaged actually, and I did have it reversed. It was only for 5 weeks, like not to brag, but my intestines back inside. But going through that, thank you. Going through that disgusting thing with somebody, it's like, oh, I am making the right call, marrying this person.
Right. And I have a friend who went through the same thing.
Let's get back on the air here and reset this.
Okay.
Rock 102.1 KFMA. We're with comedian Kat Timpf, who's performing this Sunday at the Linda Ronstat Music Hall. And tickets are available for that at tcc.com. We're going to give away a pair of tickets here in a little bit. She's also the author of a book called You Can't Joke About That, Why Everything is Funny, Nothing is Sacred, and We're All in This Together. And we're talking, I don't know how I'm going to recap of the conversation we were just having about, having your intestines kind of hang out of you, and not a colostomy bag, but something similar to that, right, Kat?
Ileostomy. So in the pandemic, I had like a really bad stomach ache where I couldn't walk, I could hardly breathe. It was really bad. I was like, and you don't want to go to the ER in peak COVID, especially New York City was in November. It was like still the peak everything. We were all the rules, whatever. The last place I want to go to the ER was the ER. I'm glad I went because I found out I had like a perforated bowel, very slight, but I needed an ileostomy, which is a bag that it's your small intestines out of your stomach, and it's a bag, and it was horrible. It was horrible.
And you're engaged at the time to the man that you're married to now.
Yes, I was engaged. I still was working at the time, but I didn't want to like tell anybody. I told maybe like a couple people that I was even going through this, because going back to the theme of my book and everything else, there's really just no chill way to have that conversation. Like,
no.
And so I just looked it up.
It's not like coffee talk humor,
No.
it's huge.
We're both like, no, don't talk about that.
No.
And we've talked about gross things, and we're like, maybe not that thing.
Yeah.
You that was my life, though. I mean, that was living that. I mean, I remember I had to talk to my therapist about it, where he would make me like look at it and touch it, because I was just walking around with massive anxiety all the time, because you can't run away from your own body, right?
Right.
So it was, but again, it was one of those things where I do talk. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the comedian Jim Norton.
Oh yeah,
but
love him.
I love him too. He's going to be on when I'm guest hosting Gutfeld tonight. I was on his radio show when the book came out, and he said, as your friend, I'm so sorry that happened to you, but as a comedian, I'm so jealous that happened to you, because I did get a lot of material out of it that I now have on the show. But the whole time, that was the only thing that helped me.
Yeah.
Because are you okay? Like, no, I'm not. But I already feel weird enough. So please don't treat me weird, because I'm having no help feeling weird right now.
Right.
And I kind of, in the chapter I wrote about it, kind of expanded that, because I just started doing research, because thinking about other people, like whether it's Norm Macdonald or Chadwick Boseman, people dying of cancer we didn't know they had. Right. And I did a lot of research, and the Google results for how to tell people I have cancer were way more than the word just cancer itself. Which I thought was really remarkable.
Yeah. Yeah. And I didn't even think about that question, but yeah, there's got to be an approach to be able to break that. I will say the silver lining and having this bag and while you're engaged, and now that your husband, what a great way to test like how true the love is. Like, is this guy
still
in
had
it?
sex with me, which is another reason why I don't care if anyone ever calls me ugly on the internet. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, listen, half my stomach was hanging out, and I still got laid.
This is the true test.
Be.
Yeah, this is the true test for in sickness and in health, for better or worse. That's you gave them all at once before you even had to say those vows and say I do. And he passed the test. Yeah, it's amazing. My next relationship, I'll try to do something like that. Be like, this is how gross it can be. Still
I mean, most couples don't get this test ever. If you do, it's usually not till your 80s. So
well, you talked about curiosity earlier, that when you do these man on the street kind of interviews, and you're like, literally, I'm just coming from a curious place. Like, I'm very, very similar to where you just said, like, my husband's, my fiance still had sex with me. I'm like, so how did it work? How did you do it? Because if I'm ever in that position, I would want to know, how would I need to do this?
There's a company that makes lingerie where it's like there's a belt you can have that's like cover it and kind of holds it in place.
Sexy. Really? It's all lacy and stuff?
Yeah, I bought
That's amazing.
I was down, like I was pretty down bad. So I was like, I was treating myself to I think it was like it was, I forget what the company was called, but it was something with like intimates and ostomates or something like that. Wow. But it's one of those, I mean, people, it's like an estimated about 1 million people are living with that anytime. I mean, it's this thing that happens to people.
Right.
It's just not a thing people talk about. I didn't.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing.
But now you are, and probably helping a lot of people out, because hearing about that, there's a lingerie line for it. It's like, that's amazing.
Well, now that you're on tour too.
And then also you can eat like Mike and Ike's and like gummy candy to kind of stop it up for a little while if you're going to go somewhere.
Really?
Oh, that's cool.
Or marshmallows work.
Does that make you constipated too then, in theory?
You don't have those kinds of feelings because it's the small intestine.
Oh.
So, yeah.
So
it's
gummy
allowing
actually...
your colon to heal, and it heals itself. So while you wait...
Interesting life hacks learned today on a Wednesday.
Yeah, and I have a scar on my stomach from it that's small, but I kind of love it. I was really worried about it at first, and then it's kind of just like, I went through this thing that was life-changing, and I almost died, and my stomach shouldn't look the same as somebody who didn't.
Right. Yeah. If anything, it's like a beauty mark. Imperfection is sexy too. So
I like it. I was really worried about it at first. Because like, oh, I'm gonna be permanently damn. And it's like, I feel like a lot of people would get it covered up and they get a tattoo to base the experience. I'm just gonna keep the mark that I think of it like a tattoo almost.
Yeah, absolutely. And trust me, I bet you your scar looks better than half my tattoos.
It does. I don't even know you, but just.
Oh, they're bad. Of course, Kat's going to be performing this Sunday at the TCC. Does the tour have a name? Like, what's the name of this show? Because this is like a one-man show / stand-up comedy / Q&A that you're going to be hosting Sunday at the TCC.
Yeah, it's called You Can't Joke About That Live. It's based on the book, but you can come whether you've read the book or whether you've not read the book and never heard of me in your entire life.
Right.
So it'll be fun for anyone and everyone.
Yeah, it's definitely a fun show. It's been getting, great buzz, and you've been on this tour now. So you're kind of like, is it like halfway through? You've done the initial runs, and kind of like the show kind of evolved, and now are we at a point where you feel like this is the show as like perfect as it can be for you?
I do. I honestly do, and I'm very, very proud of it. It's a lot to be on TV 5 days a week and then tour Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
But I love it. So that's how it's possible.
Back to the grind for sure. And, I think you're quickly trying to develop a reputation for being one of the hardest working women in show business. And I respect it. I respect the grind, the hustle. I look forward to, you coming out to Tucson, enjoying our lovely city. Make sure you eat some good tacos while you're here too. We're going to wrap things up with Kat Timpf on the podcast broadcast, but don't forget this Sunday at Linda Ronstat Music Hall. Tickets are available for her show and you can go there today. But if you want to try to win those tickets for free, we'll say caller number 10 right now, 600 KFMA, 605-36 or 2. I forgot my number. Kat, is there any like if people want to follow you, any of that? What are some of your handles?
Kat Timpf on everything. It's at KATTIMPF as in Frank.
And then later on tonight, she'll be filling in for Gutfeld. So if you come across Fox News, keep an eye out for Kat holding that down. We're going to hit the reset, be back with more Beef Vegan Presents after these words. Rock 102.1 KFMA. And Kat, thank you very much.
Awesome.
Thank you. That was a therapeutic conversation for me. So I appreciate it.
That's awesome. And do you have any plans of filming this tour to like release as like a special?
Perhaps.
Maybe.
We'll see.
Okay.
But perhaps.
All right, before I let you go. Oh my
God, this dog is so cute.
I know, sorry, he's so loud.
Let's see who your winner is. Rock 102.1, who's this?
It's Jose.
Jose, you want to go see Kat live this Sunday?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, stay on the line. I'm going to get your info. So there was Jose. He won the tickets. We'll be giving out tickets for the rest of the week, but I know that you got a busy day ahead of you. Again, thank you for taking so much time hanging out with us. We really enjoyed the conversation as well.
I did too.